What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with Matt Selz, bringing you another edition of FA Sports Talk. Here, Matt, we are getting closer and closer to the major four. Well, three of the major four sports coming to a head, returning this week. We also have the return of PGA golf, which is exciting for everybody out there that likes golf. We've had NASCAR, MMA coming off a big weekend with their pay-per-view. But it seems, like you said, the one sport that everybody's still waiting on here, MLB, don't know if it's ever even going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they're just having a mud wrestling contest in public right now. It seems like the MLBPA came out with, hey, we want to play a longer season and get paid our original prorated salaries. And then the owners are like, well, we're going to trump you and say, well, we have the power to just shorten it to 50 games and pay you basically whatever the hell we want to. So it seems like the players don't really have a say in this at this point. It seems like it's going to be whatever the owners decide to do. But a 50-game MLB season's going to suck.
Yeah, it's not going to be fun. I mean, initially when we saw the players' proposal, then we saw the owners' counter proposal, everybody on Twitter is like, well, hey, the average of like 113 and then like 50 was like 82. And everybody's like, hey, we're going to go get, the 82-game season,
Right.
the one everybody expected from the beginning. They'll figure out the prorated salaries, whether it's deferred payments like the players had offered or it was going to be the original prorated that the owners had offered. But then, like, nothing more ever came from it. And then we got the statement from the MLBPA, Tony Clark, basically saying, like, the players are done with counter offers. Like,
Yeah, didn't Max Scherzer say that too?
Yeah, Max Scherzer pretty much said, like, they're done with their counter offers. It's up to the owners, and, the owners are basically saying this is what we're doing. It could be a case of who's going to blink first, but, I mean, the NBA came out and approved their plan with a 29-1 vote to restart the NBA season at the end of July with a 22-team playoff. We know the NHL has essentially approved. I haven't seen any official word yet, but I think maybe the Players Union has to like completely ratify it. But like they're all sure going to a 24-team playoff, the round robin, playing games that they're working on for their playoff tournament. And then we know fantasy football season, coming right around the end. The NFL just said the coaches could start going into their facilities and start like planning things.
Mike Tomlin just tweeted out like a day or two ago a picture of him back in the Steelers facility, looking like he needs a shave, much like his starting quarterback.
Yeah, I'm sure many players. We all need shaves.
See, but here's what I don't understand. So, like, people couldn't get haircuts, but why couldn't they get shaves? Like, we all got trimmers and razors and stuff in our house.
Sure.
Like, why are we going like lumberjack with this? Is it like?
I think it's because like this is the first time we've had the excuse, right?
That's
like,
true.
We're back then it's like you had a reason to go get a haircut and keep clean. And now it's like we're basically living like this as lumberjacks, cavemen, stuck inside.
It's true. Really, we don't have much reason to like venture out of the cave, so to
guys,
speak.
We're just letting it go. Like I trimmed it up a little bit. My beard was getting a little scruffy in the last couple round tables that we did, and I was like, you know what, I could at least get a little shave in there. I shave my own head as it is anyway, so I wasn't really waiting for the haircuts. But the NFL as it is, like you said, they're closing in. Baseball.
They did announce that it's only going to be training camps, though. There's not going to be mini camps.
Yeah,
which
players
is to be expected.
Okay with, yeah.
Most veteran players don't want to show up to mini camps anyway. The thing that it hurts is the rookies because they don't get mini camps. But the vets, most of them don't even want to show up to training camp to begin with. Most of them just want to go straight into the season.
And the way the players had negotiated recent, labor union agree, like most of the mini camps were all done in shorts. They were no contact.
Right.
Like they were more so just some version of conditioning drills. Even to that point, though, you're seeing reports popping up that team players are getting together and grouping up and having their own little practices. We saw Tom Brady, obviously, in Tampa Bay was working with some players. I know being up in New England, Jared Stidham
was getting a group, the entire offense together.
Yeah, he's getting the whole. I mean, hey, listen, love it, need him to grab the bull by the horns. assert your dominance, know that this is your team, and get into cahoots or chemistry rather with everybody there, especially Edelman. So I mean, like, yeah, they're all able to go ahead. So sooner or later, like the focus is going to be completely off of the MLB, and like by that time, if the MLB waits too long to come back, people will be like, oh, there's a 4-hour baseball game on, or I watch playoff hockey or playoff.
Right, you could watch 2 playoff hockey games in the same time it takes the Yankees and Red Sox to play one 9-inning game.
So we talked a lot about this. Like for me, baseball's already getting an older demographic. They're already losing their fans. This could be a big kill for them in a time where like everybody's looking for something to do, something to watch, something to focus on. Now that states are starting to slowly reopen, like they're losing their window. It seems like
they're totally losing their window. Because like personally, I've seen a growth in NASCAR chat. Like we've gotten a bunch of new people in NASCAR DFS. Doesn't hurt that Dan Malin and I have done pretty well the last few weeks. And we've
MMA chat was bumping on Saturday.
Yeah, MMA chat's been busy. So, like, now you've got NASCAR in full swing. They just announced the schedules all the way through August 2nd, and there's some midweek races. There's double headers throughout weekends. So, you've already got viewership up for NASCAR. People are going to already be focusing on... I mean, we've had a ton of questions already about when, various things for fantasy football are coming out, like when the cheat sheet is coming out. Yeah. It's like the beginning of June here. By the way, if you don't already know, the Fantasy Alarm, we're launching our NFL draft guide here today.
Soon. We're expecting it to be today.
Yeah, we're expecting it to be released today. The beginnings of it.
Hopefully, by the time you're watching this, it has been out.
At least the beginnings of it should be out, and then there's plenty more to come. I know John here was busy over the weekend getting a bunch of stuff set up. Our tech team was busy as well.
Myself, Howard Bender, all whole hands crew, on deck, basically. Yeah, making sure this draft guide is ready to go for everybody.
Yep. And hopefully our cover photo pick doesn't retire before the season like last year's did. Hint, hint. That was Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
Sent us into a 1 a.m. tizzy to change everything around.
What a nightmare that was! I had already done
insane.
I had already done a few best ball drafts at that point as well. Most of us were in the middle rounds of our Scott Fishbowl drafts, and I was in a Raz Bowl best ball draft. Like people were done.
Chilling. It was like a random Wednesday, and I was chilling, and all of a sudden I saw this stuff on Twitter, and I messaged Howard, and I'm like, Luck retired. He goes, "What do you mean?" I mean exactly that. He retired.
So crazy. So crazy.
Yeah, we had to go and switch everything around. So hopefully that doesn't happen this year.
Right. Pretty confident we're okay with who we have, but we'll see what happens.
So yeah, I mean, attention's already going to fantasy football. You said golf is already back.
Golf's restarting on Thursday.
Right, and it had the match that was played a couple of weeks ago with Manning and Brady.
People love that. That was
the highest viewed. It's the highest viewed golf event in network history in I don't know, at least 5 years, maybe like a decade, something like that. It was huge. So PGA is back, football's coming back, playoff hockey's insane. I don't have the patience to follow the regular season of hockey. I know you're a bigger hockey guy than I am, but playoff hockey's awesome. Yeah. That's easily the best playoffs in pro sports.
By far, because every little thing counts.
It's just, and then the handshakes at the end of the series, and I mean, I'll even keep watching them even if my team, which is the Capitals, are out. And so, and then you'll have playoff basketball going, which is going to be a huge draw. I know you and Grande and Fensty just did a podcast late last week.
90 minutes, mostly
90 minutes of basketball talk, basically, and sports movies.
Yeah.
So, baseball is definitely losing its window. And the other thing that's going to annoy longtime fans such as myself, who actually still love baseball, that's still my number one sport, is that 50 games is not a season. Right. I'm a Nationals fan, and at this point last year, the Nationals were dead in the water. They had zero chance, although I will tell you, I got on a podcast in late May and said, hey, if they get hot, they can make the playoffs, and then you don't want to face them, and that's exactly what happened.
It's true. I mean, that pitching staff is deadly in the playoffs.
And that's what happened. So, but in a 50-game season, they would have finished 19-31. last
Right.
year, and that would have been it. And you would have gone, well, that was a waste of a year, and then who knows? Also, let me say this: as a Nationals fan, it's pretty annoying to find out that these players now want money, like you know, they want rollover money when they
Yeah.
wouldn't sign contracts with the Nationals with the same deal in it. Like Rendon and Bryce Harper didn't want it what the Nationals were offering,
Right.
but now they'll take it from the owners.
Right.
Like I don't understand what changed here.
Because they want their money now. They're not getting it, so they want it. They'll take it however they can get it. So,
Yeah, I guess, but they were going to get their money anyway. It's just
well,
a
you
matter of.
saved yourself without not having to re-sign Bryce
Well,
Harper.
I
Rendon
agree.
obviously
I
is a
agree.
tough loss.
I thought the team was going to be better without Bryce Harper to begin with because I don't like his approach at the plate. He strikes out way too much for his batting average is not
He
great.
chases a lot. I mean, teams pitch away from him,
Yeah,
and he
he still
expands the
can't hit
strike
lefty
zone.
breaking pitches.
Yeah, he expands the strike zone
Yeah, I'd,
tremendously.
I'd much rather have Juan Soto, obviously. Uh, we have to re-sign that guy. I don't care what it costs. You got to re-sign Juan Soto.
I have nothing to say. I'm a Red Sox fan. We traded Mookie Betts, so
Yeah,
I
I mean,
just,
with the hope that you could re-sign him, but that didn't exactly work out with Papelbon either.
Pat Bond, John Lester didn't resign, so
Yeah. Um. So yeah, I don't know. Baseball's definitely losing their window, and the owners are going, well, we could keep playing later in the year. Well, against what? NFL ratings later in the season? I don't think so.
yeah. I
And
mean,
and you're gonna have to play all in warm weather at that point. Like Boston's gonna be out if you're trying to play regular season baseball games in November in Boston.
yeah.
That's not a
Well,
great idea.
we had a little global warming this year. It really didn't snow at all. This was
Okay,
no
fair
lie.
point.
This was the first year that I actually went ahead and bought a snowblower. I used it once.
See, there you
I
go.
lived in,
That's what because the first year my dad bought a snowblower, it never snowed that winter.
yeah, it snowed one time, and it wasn't even like enough snow that I needed the snowblower. But out of spite, I'm like, I'm using this son of a bitch. Like I bought it.
I bought it. I may as well use it.
This is it. That quarter inch of snow is getting blown. So I mean, we were good actually. New England winter wise. Obviously, you can't anticipate that. I thought for the most part they'd play in warm weather areas anyways. So if it comes down to it, neutral
Yeah.
sites, we'll have to see. But I mean, as we said, we're moving on to other things. We have our draft guide coming out for football. I'm running best ball drafts over on BB10s.
Yep.
We have Wednesdays and Fridays. If you hit me up on Twitter, message me, I'll send you the private links there. We ran the first couple of them the last week or so. There were public rooms, and we had a handful of no-shows. Auto drafters absolutely kill a draft room, even though this was paid entry. So this is a real draft. This isn't a mock draft.
Right.
We
yeah,
had
you're playing these things out for.
yeah. And I mean, like
For better or worse.
best ball's only in the draft, so you
Right.
don't have to worry about but like still, one of the drafts we did on Friday, we had 3 people auto draft, and the algorithm, well, they didn't set anything up. One guy drafted all running backs, one guy drafted basically all wide receivers, filled up their bench spots, so they only had like minimum amount of
Ooh.
positions for everybody else. So like
That
that kind of
sucks
throws
because there's
out
also
the whole-
no trading for best balls.
yeah, no trading, no free agency. So it made
Right.
it difficult for me and everybody else in the draft, obviously, because every time those teams are coming around, they're grabbing a running back or they're not following what you would expect the normal draft pattern to be.
Right. So if you're debating a position, you have to draft the position they're going to auto pick because
they're going to auto pick and they're taking right off the top. So we decided to make it private rooms to ensure that everybody shows up. Again, people are paying $10 for it anyways. First place is $100, so we're going to get some best ball action in there. As part of everything, we have a strategy guide coming out in best ball in the draft guide. But Matt, I want and as we're as an industry starting to turn focus to fantasy football because we're tired of waiting for baseball at this point. All the baseball content has been written. You can't really do anything else. About
there is
it.
the MLB draft on Wednesday.
Right. There is,
Which is now being overshadowed,
dynasty.
so those guys not only are getting screwed with a
5
5-round
rounds.
draft and smaller bonus pool,
Mm-hmm.
they also come into a league that they definitely don't have rookie ball to play in this year. Who knows what's going to happen going forward at this point? Because I'm pretty sure the CBA was up is up at the end of next year.
I thought I saw a report that one of the players decided not to declare or like undeclared and was going to go back to school. I'm not sure if you saw
Yeah, I
it.
think so. I think they basically were like, this is cool. I'm not doing this. I may as well
Yeah,
go.
I'll go
Which
back to
makes
college for
sense
a year.
because if you're a
Yeah.
junior in college
Hmm.
and you weren't going to get drafted in the top 5 rounds, then your option is you can either go back to school or you can sign for 20 grand, which
Right.
is the cap on the undrafted free agent signing, which is not great. It's previously, I think normally it's like 100 grand. I think is
Go to
usually the
Japan at that
cap.
point. You know.
Yeah, you could go to Japan, or if you're lucky enough to find a job, that job is almost guaranteed to pay you more in salary than
Yeah, that's
than
true.
minor league. I mean these, and even if you sign at 20 grand, the minor league salary per is like $400 a week, but it's
Assuming your
only
major league
during
club is even going to pay you.
right, and it's only during playing season. So like rookie ball is only like 2 months long, so you're making
Yeah.
$400 a week for 2 months. And so yeah, I would feeling bad for these guys getting drafted right now because
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of chaos going on.
Right. So for Dynasty Baseball, you have at least one more thing to look forward to coming up on. You said
Yep,
Wednesday's the draft?
yep. It's Wednesday evening, so
All right.
I got one eye on the MLB draft and one eye on the
Right,
Martinsville NASCAR race.
yeah, one eye on NASCAR. We'll talk about the NASCAR race in a second. As an industry though, as we're shifting our focus to fantasy football, like how involved do you start getting? Here we are in June. You know, typically we all draft in August, so we have 2 months or so before we would start doing our fantasy football seasonal drafts. Try to wait as long. The season actually begins on September 10th, so it even seems like it starts a little bit later this year. Like I feel like usually we
Yeah,
get
usually it's like
like the
September
first week of
2nd or
September.
3rd
Yeah.
or yeah.
So like when 2020 continues just to stab us here, and we have to wait a week longer for football. But like how much do you start really diving into fantasy football at this point?
I will take some cursory looks. Obviously, we're writing the draft guide stuff, so that'll get my blood pumping with the research there for the pieces that I'm writing, and also some other stuff that people the other FA writers are doing.
Right.
But especially this year with no mini camps and whatnot, it's kind of hard to take stock of what exactly is going on.
Right.
At this point, like we can all be Twitter warriors and look for news reports and stuff on Twitter from players or whatever beat writers are actually reporting useful information and not just like, oh, this guy blew up a balloon today, his helium must be rising now, or this is
Yeah.
he's reporting in the best shape of his life season, like they have
Right.
in MLB spring training every year.
Right.
So I'll start. Mainly, what I'm doing at this point is rejiggering some of my fantasy football spreadsheets that I do for drafts that happen that are not. I don't even like to use like the base, draft systems. I don't really rely on the ESPN or Yahoo
Right.
or RT Sports systems because they tend to bury a lot of people, and they don't rank
They
people the
definitely.
way I want them to be. And so instead of bothering really with completely redoing all of their ranking systems, I just have my own spreadsheet, and then when there's a guy that pops up that I like I'll have my spreadsheet open on one monitor and then I'll be drafting on another, so when a guy pops up that I like, I can search for him
Hmm.
and it'll pop up. So usually that's what I'm doing at this point. I'm kind of starting to research some of the coaching changes and how that might affect some folks.
Even player acquisitions. I mean, we
Yeah,
just saw Bruce Arians come out and say they're going to switch his offense to a 12 formation
right.
to basically benefit Brady and Gronkowski. Right.
Right,
Like.
which is cool because that actually gives more value to Gronk than he previously would have.
Mhm.
Because in the system Tampa Bay runs, the tight end is, I mean, they're used, but not like as
Right, they weren't a
heavily.
feature, and now
Right,
they're going to have two tight ends on the field, which
right,
means OJ Howard could who everybody basically written off. He could even have value now. Now, typically, knowing how New England ran their 12 formation, the one other tight end that they used was usually the blocking tight end. They would kind of give an extra tackle, protect Brady's blind side. That was, a Dwayne Allen type of
exactly.
player. Now, I don't think Howard wants to be that type of player. He's definitely more gifted offensively as a pass catcher, and I know that Cameron Brate's sort of the same way. He's a bigger guy, but still a better pass catcher. But
Yeah, not
you
to
know,
bring up sour grapes, obviously, because Aaron Hernandez was a horrible human being. But OJ
right.
Howard and Gronk could be a reincarnation of that two-headed
Yeah.
monster. I mean, that's the kind of talent we're talking about.
Plus
Hopefully,
the
OJ.
elite other receivers that they have,
Right.
you can't.
Yeah, let's not
This
write
is
off Chris Godwin and Mike
yeah.
Evans and.
This is why it's going to be interesting to see how Tampa Bay's offense plays. If Brady, he's already showing more dedication now than he had in the last 2 years in New England. Like he's invigorated, as he says, he's rejuvenated, and he has some monster offensive weapons that he just didn't have in New England. He had a half healthy Gronk and a half healthy Edelman half the time, and he was able to win Super Bowls with it. Well, now he's got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Gronk's a question mark. I'll
Right.
always give it to
But
him.
if Gronk's health goes, he still has OJ Howard, Mike
Yep.
Evans, Chris Godwin. He's got a solid running game with pass catchers out of the backfield.
And Cameron Brate's a good receiver.
And Cameron Brate is a heck of a third tight end to have in
Right.
case Gronk goes down. So, and let's not forget that their up and coming defense is pretty good too.
They were number 2 against the run last year.
Right. So, I mean,
The
it wasn't
problem
to the
was
level of the Patriots the last couple of years, but they have a good enough defense that even
they
if
were
the
just
offense
hurt by
comes up
Jameis.
short,
Jameis is all those interceptions that Jameis
yeah,
is
because he
throwing at him
couldn't
and
see
tracking it the whole
because
time.
he went and had LASIK, and now he can
Yeah.
apparently read license plates as he tweeted out, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a problem. You couldn't read them before. But yeah, so I think if anybody in fantasy football has more helium at this point than Tom Brady, I'm not sure who it is. Um,
Yeah, I agree. And I
I
think the
mean,
one thing, we write an article in the draft guide. It's called Training Camp Matters. And, probably no more ever so than this year because, as you mentioned, there hasn't been any of the other mini camps. And in terms of like ADP, this is an opportunity, I think, where you could, get guys at better ADPs because no one's really
mhm.
rising up the draft boards right now because there is no other news coming out. We're not going to know anything until these guys get into training camp. And then you're only going to get a couple of practice reports, and then you'll have to watch them in the preseason games, and maybe we won't
They
see.
may even play more in the
Yeah,
preseason this year than they
right.
previously had because coaches haven't had as much of a look at them as they
Mm-hmm.
previously, in that they could have had in mini camps
Right.
and OTAs before they even got to training camp. So
Yeah.
obviously the vets that have been on the team and been with the coaching staff, they're not going to need to see. But new acquisitions, and you could see a lot of Brandon Cooks for the Texans because he's got to work out, getting a rapport
Watson.
with Watson, and that whole offense has been retuned because you got David Johnson is there now, and so
Yeah.
you could see a lot more stuff. Phillip Rivers is probably going to play more in the preseason than he has the past few years
Yep.
because
Trying to get reps in.
although he does know the offensive system because he had Frank Reich in San Diego, and yes, I meant San Diego because he was there before they moved to LA.
Right.
And he's trying to get reps in with T.Y. Hilton and possibly Paris Campbell and
Michael Pittman, the
Michael
receiver.
Pittman, and
Which is, really the more important thing is all these rookies that came in, are even further behind the eight ball. Without
agreed.
having the passing camps. I mean, we talked about how deep this wide receiver draft class was. Well, they're all going to go in with even less experience than other rookie receivers. Not having the ability to really work out as much. I'm sure some of them have at least gotten together with their quarterbacks or whatever, and started doing a little bit of throwing. But I mean, like you said, there's so many OTAs and QB drills and all these things that passing camp that they were doing beforehand, heading into training camp that they don't even have now.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's not like rookie wide receivers have been, yes, the elite top picks rookie wide receivers, some of them have been really productive in their rookie years. But generally,
I would say the last 2 years started kind of creating a new narrative for
yeah,
rookie receivers. Like they've just been so good, that we've seen some guys really just come out and
right.
jump.
And we're not even going to go back to the class with OBJ and a couple other guys because, that was a special class unto itself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the last couple of years where they've had what you would, I guess, consider mediocre to okay rookie wide receiver classes. Some of them have been highly productive, but it hasn't necessarily been the top guys.
No.
Like, did we see Terry McLaurin being
Well,
arguably the most productive rookie wide receiver?
McLaurin, there was a lot of
Like,
people that thought maybe DK Metcalf wouldn't be able to, translate because he was a one route runner,
right.
right?
And
Well,
then he turned out to have, what, 700 yards and 6 touchdowns or
yeah,
something?
I mean, and he really came on at the end of the year as well for them. So
Right. Um, the Cardinals guys, a couple of them got injured, so we can't really dock them there.
Isabel, I mean Slayton for the Giants,
Mm-hmm.
really came out of nowhere. Renfro at the end of the year
Yes.
last year, once he got healthy, he was strong for them as well. So yeah, some
So,
rookie receivers certainly made their mark. Sadly, N'Keal Harry, the Patriots' first round pick.
well, that's because Tom Brady doesn't like rookie wide
Yeah, and he
receivers.
was on IR. Hollywood Brown had that breakout like
Yep.
first week or two, and he
And then he
really
kind of disappeared.
disappeared.
Yeah.
So like yeah, it was a little bit of an up and down class. More so the later round guys came through than the early round guys.
Right. But this, by all accounts, shouldn't be one of those classes.
Yeah,
Like, they should shine. But they are at a disadvantage because all they can do right now is just look at the playbook on paper. And or tablets or whatever they're given now.
hmm
But there's an entirely different, it's one thing to look at it on paper or a chalkboard or a tablet and then go run it at game speed and see, oh, that gap isn't really there quite as long as I thought I would have it in college where these guys really hit
yeah.
like way harder.
Everybody runs a 4.5. You're not
Right.
falling by. Everybody. All the cornerbacks are just as fast
It's
as you
like,
are.
oh,
So
damn, those linebackers can cover like corners.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah, there's a reason they're in the NFL.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that doesn't scare me off of rookie wide receivers, but I'm certainly not taking them as high as I've looked to take some other guys the past couple of seasons, simply
exactly.
because they're just not going to get as many reps.
Right. So it'll be good, definitely, to be say to mock draft and make sure we get a feel for draft strategy as things develop. But of course, again, we still have a couple months before we're actually drafting our teams here. And personally, in my leagues, I probably won't be drafting until like September 8th. I like to wait
Yeah,
until
most
the
of my
last.
most of my league, I think my big money league generally drafts on Labor Day, like the morning of Labor
Yeah.
Day, which I guess now is like a full week before the
But at
season
least the
starts.
games will be over with. Like you only
Right.
have to worry about a guy like falling down the stairs or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's always my thing. There is waiting the last possible day to get your drafts in.
Well,
So
like what's happening in baseball with Noah Syndergaard getting Tommy John, Sir Anthony Dominguez, who was supposed to be the closer for the Phillies, is undergoing
right,
Tommy John. Who had the thoracic outlet? Oh,
Chris
Chris
Archer.
Archer. Yeah, thoracic outlet syndrome. So his career is basically done.
Yeah.
Um,
Verlander had surgery, right? Didn't he have like
yeah, I
groin
think
surgery or
didn't
something?
they say he was out with like a lat and then he had a hip fixed or something?
Yeah, something
Like,
like
yeah,
so.
that's a little sketchy.
Right.
um,
We probably all saved ourselves some heartache with fantasy baseball this year because all
yeah.
those pitches would have gone down and we would have been kicking ourselves.
Oh,
So
for sure. So, but yeah, I mean, injuries can happen in training camp for NFL as well. But there's also less of a chance that a guy gets injured in OTAs because how many times in the last couple of seasons have we seen, like, especially with the Niners running backs?
yeah.
Seems like one dude every year has torn their ACL in like OTAs and mini camps, like
hmm
every year. So the Niners are probably excited they can at least get to training camp with a healthy group of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why a lot of the players sort of started championing for no double days.
hmm
Most of them are in shorts, no contact. To try to save their bodies there. So yeah, like I said, football's coming. We're all excited for it. Hopefully, baseball can get on the field just for us hardcore fans there. But Matt, before we finish this off here, we had an okay, I think, or a good race day, right? I saw some people put up some good cashing lineups.
Yeah, we
Uh,
had the cash lineup for Atlanta, which was put together by my partner in crime here, Dan Malin, was a really good cash lineup. It was unfortunately a fairly chalky lineup because that's just the way it worked out today
yeah.
or on Sunday here for Atlanta. And in NASCAR, most of the time chalk is pretty much necessary. Like you kind of got to play the chalk in NASCAR. I know in other DFS sports, you kind of want to fade the chalk sometimes because there's bad chalk. A lot of like in the NBA, there can be a lot of bad chalk.
Yeah, that chalk is for sure a real
Yeah,
thing. Talk about it all.
not necessarily in NASCAR. It mostly comes from the fact that there's only 40 drivers a week, so you don't really have that many other options you can go to.
Right.
But yeah, it did really well. Won a bunch of people quite a bit of money. Had I played it in one other tournament, I actually would have tied for a qualifier in King of the Speedway, which is the like live final.
Yeah,
For
that would have been
NASCAR.
cool.
Would have been like a 5-way tie, so it would have been a couple of grand, and I don't know how they would have settled the tiebreaker, but yeah, it was a good day for racing.
The last time I did a well. This was I guess that was for live final, so differently. But I did a tiebreaker, or I tied for entry into FanDuel's like Monster for NBA, which is like a $300 tournament, and FanDuel just split it and gave me $150 in my account. I was like, that's not what I'm looking for. Like,
Yeah,
I'd rather play that guy,
I think we had a
head-to-head.
sub that tied in NASCAR a couple of weeks ago for like a huge ticket contest on NASCAR. Like it was like a $400 ticket
Yeah.
for FanDuel NASCAR, and it was like a 3-way tie, and so they just cashed it out and gave him the cash money.
Yeah,
anyway.
I would
And
rather
he's
do like a
like-
three-man tourney or something
And
like
he's
that.
like, I probably actually want the cash because if I turn that ticket and then I don't win anything, then it's like it took me 2 weeks to lose the money, whereas I just get the money now anyway.
Yeah, but you
So,
missed
like,
out on an
I can't
opportunity.
really fault the logic there.
Yeah.
But that $400 tourney paid like $100K to first, and it was
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
it was
Hey,
like
you missed out on
300
an
people,
opportunity.
so it wasn't that big of a. But yeah, so we had a pretty good week, pretty good race day on Sunday. There's another race coming up here Wednesday at Martinsville, under the lights, which is fantastic. It'll be the first Cup race run at Martinsville under the lights ever.
Wow.
So it'll be pretty exciting. Short track, bump and runs under the lights. Tempers are going to be flaring. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty fun time.
You guys got full content coming up, podcasts and all the works.
We do. I'm going to pack 5 days worth of content into 2 days.
That's what we're looking for, Maddie.
Yeah.
They don't give you all those awards for nothing.
Typically in a normal race week, track breakdown comes out Wednesday. Rankings and projections come out Thursday. We get practice notes on Friday if there are practice notes, and then more practice notes Saturday, and then playbook Saturday, and then example lineups and best bets on Sunday. So that's 5 days worth of content, and all of that stuff is going to be packed into between Monday and Tuesday with example lineups coming out Wednesday.
Are you on the playbook or is it mail-in?
It will be me. The only reason that Dan did the playbook for Atlanta was because it was my anniversary on Saturday, and I didn't really want to be stuck inside writing a 3,000-word playbook.
Right.
The wife would probably get pretty upset for our 5th anniversary if that's what I chose to do. So,
Right.
plus I also just needed a break. That was like the 6th race in like 3 weeks.
I mean, you said when they released the schedule that NASCAR was trying to kill you. So
Yeah,
you know.
I think they probably. They also apparently tried to kill their drivers on Sunday too, because a couple of those guys got out of the car and.
I heard
they
Bubba
were-
Wallace apparently like passed out or something.
Yeah, he passed out and then said he was, and then they asked if he would do a TV interview about passing out, and he said, "Sure, I'm fine." And then he was in the middle of the interview, and then just faded, and his eyes rolled back, and he nearly passed out sitting on pit wall in the middle of an interview after saying he was
Jeez.
fine. And he's since been cleared. It was like heat exhaustion. Ryan Newman was sitting up against pit wall, like sweated through his fire suit, looked completely gassed. So if anybody doubts that these guys are athletes, they'll lose 10 to 15 pounds in a race pretty regularly. And today it was a hot, humid day in Atlanta.
I gotta see if I can sit passenger side with them one of those races and just
Going-
put the suit on. You know.
Yeah, and while they do have a netted window, it's not like you're getting a whole lot of airflow in that car. They don't have air conditioning.
I just figured the inside of their fire suit was just a bunch of ice packs. Yeah.
They can. So they do have the option to have like hoses run, like tubes basically run through, and they will do that. for some races in the
Like
middle
I
of the
imagine they
summer.
have to have like a straw or something in their mask. No, like can't they
They
get
do.
flu?
So they have. So if anybody's watched, and I know John, you've watched them. They have a hose hooked to the back of their helmet that's providing air into their helmet,
Yeah.
and then there's a water bottle that basically has a really long straw that'll go under their visor so they can suck water during the race. But normally the fire suit isn't cooled at all.
Okay.
It's just there because it's you don't want to catch fire. It's fire retention.
Yeah.
Um,
Nobody wants to be on fire.
exactly. We don't want to have like a Will Ferrell Talladega
Yeah.
Nights thing.
Exactly. Ricky Bobby takes
Yeah, exactly. I'm on
his
fire.
naked. He's running around. Nobody wants to see it.
Although nowadays you can actually see the fire because they don't use the. But like in IndyCar, you can't see the fire usually because of the fuel they use. But that's a different subject.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no air conditioning, so they'll have temperature gauges in the car, and you'll routinely see the inside of the car get up to 140 or so, pretty
That's
easily.
crazy.
And these guys are in there.
Why with today's technology have they not figured a way to cool down the car?
So they kind of do it with
It's
forced
just like
air.
a weight thing. They want to just like keep the car light, or
Well, yeah. So you want to make it so that there's less technical stuff to go wrong. It's also a weight thing. It's also a power thing because it's going to take a lot of battery and alternator power to run air conditioning.
okay.
But they do have ducts in the car that basically, like not animals, but like DUCTS, that force air through the car. So it's kind of like
It would have been awesome if they had some actual ducks in the car.
yeah, I think PETA would have probably had an issue with that. But they do force air into the car, and like they do have the window netting, which kind of like you can kind of catch a breeze, but like I don't know, it's not like one of the
It's not a priority. It's not a priority of theirs. They're just
right,
willing
exactly.
to
I mean, if you
people
see
do-
the inside of that car, there's basically nothing in it except support beams and a custom.
Gotta
made
get those
seat.
guys some dashboard fans, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but that's also why they have the cooled, the cooled fire suits that these guys can wear. I think, frankly, it just took them by surprise as to exactly how hot it would get. Because normally the Atlanta race is in like the middle of March,
Right.
and so there was like I was talking to Dan, and he said there's like legitimately a 30-degree difference between what it would have been in March compared to what it was on Sunday, temp wise, and that makes. I mean, when the race started, it was about 130 degrees on track, so that's pretty toasty.
Yeah, that sounds pretty brutal.
It's not going
But
to get that bad in Martinsville, though. That's the good news.
Well, we look forward to seeing all the content you put out there for Wednesdays. Then, Matt, any final thoughts here before we wrap up?
No, I mean I may be dead by Wednesday, depending on content and how long DraftKings decides to take to put out the salaries. Because they're playing. That's the problem with NASCAR going on right now, though, is that DraftKings is paying attention to salaries and values,
Right.
and they're messing with them because they're waiting until after the starting lineups come out to release their salaries now, and so they can rig the values in the lineups to whatever they
They're
see fit.
also pushing roster lock back to make sure they fill.
Yes, that also happened. I got numerous messages, one from you, a couple from subs that were like, I thought roster lock was 3 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. I was like, it was, but they didn't fill their GPPs, so they don't want overlay, so they pushed it back 20 minutes. It's not the first time they've done that. They did it during iRacing, too.
They did it on Saturday for the UFC fight. They pushed it back 20 minutes. They try to fill the Millie Mega there. So, as a stockholder of DraftKings, I hope that doesn't impact their Monday shares. I'll say that. So let's keep that price up.
Well, I mean, it should theoretically help their stock price because it means they're not shelling out more of their own pocket money. They're shelling out more of the people that paid to play that lost.
Right.
So, theoretically, it helps their share price, but it's really frustrating for DFS players.
I agree with that. Final thoughts for me here. Definitely check out the draft guide when it's released. Buy the draft guide, more importantly. And also, if you want to get in some best ball drafts, follow me on Twitter at Impemba777. Send me a DM, tweet at me saying you want to get in, and I'll privately message you the link to join. And you'll be in on Wednesday's draft, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can do a best ball draft and watch NASCAR. What better way to spend a Wednesday evening while we're all cooped up doing nothing? So, for John Impemba, Matt Selz, we'll catch you later.